What's up, Taiwan? I'm Jaime Ocon with 10 minutes of news from here in Taiwan and around the world. Taiwan has condemned China for holding its second military combat drills around the island in less than a month. The Defense Ministry says it detected 57 warplanes and 4 naval ships near the country's borders. Of the group, 28 aircraft breached the country's Air Defense Identification Zone, or ADIZ. The ADIZ is not sovereign airspace, but it's used by the military as a buffer zone for defensive purposes. The latest incursion included 3 drones, over 20 fighter jets, 2 bombers, and a radar plane. For more on the drills, I spoke to Ben Lewis, a defense expert in Washington, D.C., who tracks Taiwan ADIZ activity. What can you tell us about the recent incursion, and what do you think prompted this reaction?
It was a diverse grouping, mostly fighter aircraft, but it was notable that the drone took an extended flight route. We've never seen a drone do that before. And I think it's most likely that this is kind of a coalescent response to what seems to be a kind of a busy time for U.S.-Taiwan relations in the past couple of weeks. So we had the NDAA signed, and then, of course, on December 25th, we had a very large incursion, one of the largest of last year. But we also had Volcano anti-tank systems. That arms sale was confirmed. The USS Chunhoon transited the Taiwan Strait on Thursday, and I think it's kind of a combination of those things that the PLA is responding to in this instance. They announced these exercises this morning through Chinese state media, and what the Chinese state media actually said was they listed those things specifically, but they also mentioned that analysts in the mainland were hoping that the newly elected House Speaker of the United States Congress, McCarthy, would take notice to the message that they were sending. So all in all, I think it's a kind of a combo deal of responses that kind of turned into a very sizable amount of aircraft in the Aegis.
Can you talk about how China is using these drones in these types of operations?
So China has made an effort to develop modern advanced drones to support both its naval aviation, its ground forces, and its air force. And I think the general idea is with all automation is burden sharing. So now you can have fighters operating without a manned support aircraft. You have a UAV flying with them, essentially a permanent wingman for that fighter. And in general, I think they want to have experience using drones because we've seen how effective drones are over the last decade, especially in the last year. And so in general, I think we're going to see more drones as we go forward. Since drones started being publicly tracked by the MND on September 5th of 2022, they've made up around 10% of the amount of aircraft we've seen.
That was Ben Lewis speaking about the recent Chinese military activity around Taiwan. Ferry services between several Taiwanese islands and China have resumed, and that's after a long hiatus brought on by the COVID pandemic. But as John Ventrias reports, China's new COVID surge could complicate the reopening.
For the first time in 3 years, boats like this one are welcoming passengers aboard. This ferry links Taiwan's Matsu Islands with the nearby Chinese coast. Many locals have family on both sides, making this half-hour boat ride an important link. But the COVID pandemic saw crossings halted, leaving people separated from their loved ones. It's been the same story on the islands of Jinmen, which lie within sight of the Chinese city of Xiamen. Now, 3 years on, borders are open again. And the ferries are running again too, just in time to allow families to gather for the Lunar New Year. Given the recent COVID surge in China, only residents of these islands, and their Chinese spouses or children, are allowed on the ferries for now. And they're tested for COVID as soon as they arrive from China. On the first crossing to Jinmen, 7 passengers tested positive. Local officials are calling for the ferry service to adopt the more rigorous testing rules already in place for travelers arriving from China by air. Medical experts also suggest testing arrivals from China for COVID antibodies.
我觉得出来的时候，如果在入境检测的时候可以加入抗体检测，也就是说，如果他有抗体，表示他已经康复有保护力，那这样的进入这个台湾也好，或进入其他世界各地也好，就不会有威胁。
Taiwan is already registering tens of thousands of cases a day, and officials in Jinmen and Matsu want to keep their islands from becoming a backdoor, letting in a new COVID surge. Ethan Pan and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
On Sunday, China lifted its quarantine requirements for incoming travelers as the country continues to battle a surge in COVID-19 cases. Large crowds of people arrived at airports across the country, and many others converged on land control points between mainland China and Hong Kong. Demand for flights between Hong Kong and China reportedly shot up more than 60% the first day that quarantine rules were relaxed. The reopening came just one day after the start of China's Lunar New Year travel season, and an estimated 2 billion trips are expected to occur during the 4-day period. China had maintained some of the toughest COVID restrictions in the world. During the past 3 years, the required quarantine period had been around 21 days, and at one point was as much as 28 days. Taiwan has been invited to join the Inter-Parliamentary Alliance on China, or IPAC. Here's Democratic Progressive Party lawmaker Fan Yun announcing the news on Sunday.
这2天，我收到 IPAC 的来信，他们刚通过邀请台湾成为会员，也邀请我成为共同的主席团成员。这是我们过去这几个月努力的成果，这也是台湾外交的一大突破。
Fan and Taiwan's People's Party lawmaker Tsang Qilu have been invited to join the alliance's group of co-chairs. The co-chair group currently includes 56 lawmakers from around the world. U.S. Senator Marco Rubio and EU lawmaker Reinhard Bütikofer are among its members. IPAC describes itself as an international cross-party group of legislators working to reform how democratic countries approach China. The group has been outspoken on China's persecution of Uyghurs in Xinjiang and Hong Kong's national security law. The Speaker of Paraguay's Chamber of Deputies has met with President Tsai Ing-wen. Carlos Maria Lopez praised Taiwan and Paraguay's long-standing ties and thanked Taiwan for its support for scholarship programs between the countries. President Tsai welcomed Lopez to Taiwan, and she says she hopes his visit can lead to what she calls a big step forward in bilateral ties. Paraguay is one of 14 countries that have full diplomatic ties with Taiwan, but Lopez's visit comes at a time when those ties may be under threat. Paraguay's main opposition candidate for president has said he'll cut off relations with Taiwan if he wins April's general election. Back in Taiwan, it's common to see deities paraded around the streets on local temple festival days. But there's one temple in the southern city of Pingtung that does things just a little differently for New Year's Day. Philip Broussard has this story.
An orangutan, a hippo, and a camel cross the road. But this isn't the setup to a joke, and they aren't alone. There's also a Formosan black bear, a dinosaur, and even a mosquito. This is the annual animal parade put on by Pingtung City's Jade Emperor Temple. It has over 100 different types of animal that take to the streets every New Year's Day. According to Buddhist legend, the Buddha reincarnated as many different creatures. And the temple says they made these statues to bless the area and bring peace and protection. It's the only parade of its kind in Taiwan, and if you want to see it for yourself, make a note in your calendar now for January 1st, 2024. Eason Chen and Philip Broussard for TaiwanPlus.
Businesses around Taiwan are cashing in on demand for Lunar New Year treats. And one shop in the south of the country has learned this lesson: you need to bake money to make money. The store in Chiayi sells cakes in the shape of several currencies, including Japanese yen, euros, and Taiwan dollars. Its owner, Chen Wenxing, says demand has skyrocketed in the last few days as people buy gifts for their families. Red envelopes with cash are a traditional Lunar New Year's gift, and Chen and his staff are working overtime to make sure that they and their customers can bring home some dough. Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. Remember to download the TaiwanPlus app for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally today, we leave you with the images of plum blossoms in southeast Taiwan. I'm Jaime Ocon. Take care and see you next time.
For more news from Taiwan and around the world, head to TaiwanPlus.com and download the TaiwanPlus app.